Air compressors, the necessary evil, if you will, of airbrushing. Not really an evil, but it sounded good in my mind because I make up everything as I go, baby. It's never scripted. They're not all created equally, and today I'll talk about a couple. First up is your standardized compressor by itself. You can find these on Amazon dirt cheap these days or eBay. Usually they come in little starter packs with 1 to 3 airbrushes, sometimes one airbrush and a couple of water-based acrylic paints. Honestly, they're the beginner's stepping point for anybody who just wants to dip their toes into airbrushing. Cheap, small, and if you don't like it, you're not going to cry a river over the money you've lost upon it. It's simply designed as that, to be a starting point if you're that interested, the testing ground. Think of it as the Ninja 250 of motorcycles. Now we upgrade to a tank version air compressor. The air compressor puts air into the tank and allows you to spray for longer intervals. This isn't bad, really. It's a far better investment than the first one that I've shown you. But the downside is, one, you always have to make sure to check your tank and drain it, because if you leave air in it for too long, which you're not supposed to do, but hey, people forget, it'll rust from the inside. And if too much moisture gets trapped in there and the inside rusts, one day you'll turn it on and pop, it'll blow a hole inside of it. And compressed air blowing up is probably something you don't really want to deal with. This one is more expensive and doesn't come with any extra stuff, unless you're willing to pony up more money. And at that point, the amount of money you'll spend on something like this, just for a few airbrushes or paints, would be enough to buy you an even bigger air compressor. And we are now currently looking at my newest air compressor, the one I use all the time now, the California Air Tools. Technically, I'm very sure this is made in China. You can find a cheaper variation of it, probably using the same parts. It just won't have the brand California Air on it, and it'll be a blue tank. It'll be around $150. You can thank me later. Now, you might sit there and go, this is overkill. But when you think about it, the California Air version is supposed to run silently. It's not that much louder than the other air compressors. Also, the added boon is you can use this for working on vehicles. If you do any sort of wrenching on your vehicles like I do, this thing pays for itself within the first few weeks. You can put impact wrenches on this sucker. You can put air in your tires, leaves off your driveway. You can use it to blow leaves off of your garage. It's specifically meant for power tools, but you can use it for airbrushing very simply and easily. Now, to get this air compressor to be compatible with an airbrush, you need one of two things. You'll need either a moisture trap that you can connect to your huge tank, or you could just plug straight into the tank with one simple adapter. I think it's a 3/8 to... or is it 1/4 to 3/8? I don't know. We'll look it up some other time. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's very simple to just get an adapter off of Amazon. All you have to do is like type it in, airbrush adapter to air compressor 3/8, whatever, and you'll be good. They've got so many of these sets, you can't screw it up because they'll give you everything you need. And the price is what's really going to get you. As I said before, if you go for like one with the name brand, California Air, you're going to be dropping close to $200. And that will kind of seem like a lot, but then again, keep in mind, there are smaller air compressors designed for airbrushing on Amazon that are $200, and they only have a 1.5 liter tank. This thing's 8 gallons. I can sit and airbrush with it on for a good few minutes without it constantly turning on and revving up and going over and over again, which after a while becomes annoying, especially if you're using the smaller air compressors that just continuously run repeatedly. It really gets on your last good nerve. I will say that you need to live alone or have your own home. I wouldn't use this in an apartment complex, by the way. You know, it's quiet, but it'd be much for someone who doesn't have their own home, just in case you paint really late at night. I will say that the moisture trap, if you either get one, that's an extra $35, or you could buy a moisture trap simply for your airbrush. I can't say that I've had any moisture come through the hoses because every time I check my moisture traps, they are bone dry, weirdly enough. But my small air compressor with the 1 gallon tank seem to always have a moisture issue. Don't know what to make of it. Oh, forgot to mention the 8-gallon tank also comes with a quick release system. Pretty cool. That way when I'm done airbrushing, boom, flip of the switch, it pops out. Pop in my big hose for putting air in tires or hooking up my drill bit. It's a fantastic item. I'm glad I got this, really. Next, we'll do some sound tests to give you an idea of what you're dealing with. Overall, the gigantic air tank isn't that much louder than the smaller 1-gallon, weirdly enough. So, honestly, in my opinion, this is for me, since I do a lot of airbrushing and other things, it's a great buy. Might not be for someone who's just getting into the hobby, just, messing around, checking things out. I'd say this is for someone who spends a lot of time airbrushing or needs an impact wrench, even though they have like electric impact wrenches now. I hear those are pretty good. So you can always relegate it to putting air in the tires. Lord knows I hate going to like a gas station and paying a few bucks to get some air. Those days are over now. Overall consensus, I would recommend probably the 1-gallon tank for someone who's just getting into airbrushing. It's small, doesn't take up a lot of space, not that loud, at least gives you the freedom to spray, but on the negative side, a lot of moisture, and if you use a bigger airbrush gun like I do, I don't even know why I called it a gun, but since it's got a trigger on it, that one goes through a 1-gallon tank like nobody's business. And if you have a 1-gallon tank and you're using a bigger nozzle that shoots out more paint and uses more air, your compressor is liable to run more. The more the compressor runs, the louder it is, and the more it starts to wear down over time. Oh, and it gets so hot. It gets crazy hot. So those are the downers. I mean, if you're running into those issues, you might as well get a big tank. But I would not recommend it to anyone that isn't like really, really, really into airbrushing.